The coalition has been bombing Houthi rebels since March in an attempt to restore Yemen's exiled president to power. Secretary of State John Kerry is meeting with Russia's foreign minister in Sochi right now. Later today, he'll talk with President Vladimir Putin. It is Kerry's first visit to Russia since the start of the crisis in Ukraine. The State Department says they hope to make sure that Russia clearly understands the U.S. views. Putin's spokesman calls the visit a positive step. King Salman of Saudi Arabia is skipping this week's meeting of the Gulf Cooperation members at the White House. But the Obama administration insists it does not point to any sort of rift between the allies.
There's been no concern raised by our Saudi partners, either before the change in travel plans or after, related to the agenda at Camp David. So I know that there have been some speculation that this change in travel plans was an attempt to send a message to the United States. If so, that message was not received because all the feedback that we've received from the Saudis has been positive.
The Saudi foreign minister says the king needs to stay home to deal with Yemen. He'll send his crown prince to the meeting instead. As Patty Culhane reports, there is a lot on the agenda.
This is pretty unusual. The White House never announces that people are going to be attending a summit or meeting with the president unless they're fairly confident that they'll actually show up. But the White House is saying that King Salman of Saudi Arabia had agreed to, and that's why they announced on Friday not only would he be at the summit, but he'd have one-on-one time with the president here at the White House this coming Wednesday. So what changed? Well, Saudi officials say that the king has decided to stay in Saudi Arabia because that'll happen during the humanitarian pause in Yemen. But behind the scene, analysts are saying this is a snub. The White House press secretary joked that he was asked so many questions about it that snub is really the word of the day at the White House. White House is trying to downplay what seems to be a pretty serious diplomatic spat, saying that the right people will be at the table when they announce any sort of new initiatives on defense security.
Ahmed Alibrahim is a Saudi affairs specialist joining us from Riyadh this morning. Mr. Ibrahim, thank you for your time. So what is your take on why King Salman is not attending the summit, and how is it being perceived in Riyadh?
Well, it's been going on back and forth, the explanation of the king actually not attending this huge summit. You know, the United States of America, for Saudi Arabia, it's a big deal, especially since the king has been pledged allegiance over here and became a king. Usually you make a visit for your best ally, which is the United States. So it was a very good opportunity to attend such a huge summit and also visit the United States while King Salman is a king. It took us by surprise when the announcements has changed. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef, he's very well known to the American. He's hands-on on the foreign policy. He can actually negotiate and talk and commit on behalf of King Salman. However, the presence of King Salman is also important to be at Camp David. This summit is an unusual summit. Could change the whole the American strategy to the GCC country and to the Middle East, and such a leader should be there, should make the decision, and should meet President Obama. The King of Bahrain is not also going over there. He's appointing his crown prince. So actually that's where it shifts for us in Riyadh, that it's actually tilting of there is non-comfort of the Iranian deal. There is a lot of things has been assessed on an hourly basis over here, what possibly President Obama have for the GCC countries, what the offer will be, and from what basically they're getting, they seem they are not comfortable with what's going on, and probably this is like a message that they need to recalculate their, their points with the GCC countries in regards to Iran.
And the GCC, when it comes to Iran, seems relatively unified, but they are not unified when it comes to other major issues. Egypt is a perfect example where Qatar, for example, supported the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Saudis and the UAE supported El-Sisi. Will these differences among GCC nations belie the talks happening at Camp David?
I think this is one of the issues what President Obama have been saying, and he's going to address to the GCC countries. He's going to tell them, listen, if you want the United States to help you and this administration to help you, you need to look more inside your countries. President Obama is going to basically broker that you know, you will never ever have a threat coming from outside the GCC to your countries. The threat is going to remain within the nations, within your countries, within your people. So President Obama, he's going to ask the GCC countries for more human rights, more women's rights, more freedom of speech, more things that could help and assist American administration into help the GCC countries. As far as the GCC countries and their foreign policy, we do understand, as you mentioned, they are not unified. But I think at the end of the day, when they get together, they will have the same message. Egypt is behind us. Everybody is in agreement on what's going on in Egypt. Pretty much the GCC house has been collected itself before Camp David. So I think they stand very well on what they could address and ask President Obama on how they see the future of the U.S. involvement in the GCC.
Since you're a Saudi...
points and agreement they would see against Iran.
Yeah, since you're a Saudi-U.S. expert, do you believe that in reality the relationship is materially any different than it was before, or are Saudi Arabia and the U.S. as interdependent as ever?
Saudi Arabia, with President Obama administration, it became independent. President Obama pushed us to be independent, rather to be an ally with the United States. Probably he pushed us to be a friend only rather than an ally. So definitely the President Obama administration is made us stand on our feet more stronger and depend on ourselves. And and this is not only Saudi Arabia what's facing from President Obama. I think the Congress is facing the same issues we are facing over here in Saudi Arabia. Look what Senator McCain said. I mean, he do understand how the GCC countries are furious about the foreign policy that that this administration has been doing to the Middle East, and the faults and the hiccups and all the vacuum they left us with. So Saudi Arabia decided with the GCC countries to fill this gap, to depend on themselves. Nobody can scratch my back better than myself. And I think we are going to look in 2017 what's going to happen with the new administration.
Interesting analysis. Ahmed Alibrahim joining us from Riyadh. Thank you so much for your time. A decision by the Obama administration is delightful.